develop a tool that architect can learn to use in an hour's time, which could aid them significantly in trying to design, as they do a design process, as they try different design scenarios, what does it mean in terms of sustainability? There are some tools that my colleagues and I have been developing looking for energy efficiency in buildings. How much energy is the building used for heating or cooling? Another colleague of mine has done a lot of work on daylighting tools to try and predict what the daylight level is of the building as a function of the design of the facade, placement of the windows, placement of blinds and the like. Some tools on structural performance. In a lot of cases, we've even gone to the case of developing some optimization algorithms so that the tool will not develop the optimum design, but will make some suggestions to the designers that, well, if you start with this design, and if you make these changes, here will be the performance improvements that you'll get from doing these types of things. So it's been an ongoing process probably for the last 10 or 15 years in our building technology program, and have a number of tools that architects are now using, as well as designers and consultants in their professional practice. One of my colleagues, Christoph Reinhardt, has done called DaySim, which is a program which does daylighting simulation. Les Norford, another colleague of mine, is developing some tools, in this case, to predict the outside environment in cities. And he's looking at things like the heat island effect and what happens as you change the amount of green space, you change the spacing of the buildings, the amount of paved space. What does it mean to the increase in temperature that you see in the center of the building, in the center of the cities? So for example, he's shown that if you change the orientation of the streets relative to the prevailing winds, you can change the temperature distribution and moreover change the pollutant concentration. One of the things in some of the tools we're trying to do also is do the comparison of energy efficiencies versus renewable energies. There's a push in many cases for these so-called zero energy buildings that people are talking about. An example I always like to quote is the John Hancock building across the river here, and ask the class, or in fact ask lecture audiences, if I cover the entire building with photovoltaic panels, how much energy will I produce relative to the needs of the building? And the answer is only about 20%. This is entire including the facade with the PV panels. And so what this really tells me is the emphasis should be more on energy efficiency and less on the renewables. Lots of new construction in places like California and elsewhere have shown by careful design, integration of some of the new technologies, proper use of them, we can reduce the energy consumption by at least a factor of 2, if not more, and still provide the people's comfort, provide the lighting levels that they want, and in many cases provide buildings which people are happier and are more productive in. We started 7 years ago as part of the Energy Initiative. We started that Campus Energy Task Force, and we've done a number of kinds of things to publicize energy efficiency on campus. And one of the interesting things is we've used the MIT campus really as a lab for our students. So for example, I have an undergraduate course, and every year for a design project I let them loose on the campus and say, find a building or a part of a building. Can you come up with an idea of how you can increase the energy efficiency of the building, either by operations or some modifications of the building or the like? And we pass around that information to the facilities people. And in many cases, they serve as advisors to these teams, so we sort of get them involved in the process from the beginning. We've done a number of other things on campus to publicize. Now finally we have a director of sustainability here at MIT, and she'll be taking over some of these responsibilities and working. Although as faculty we're still eager to work with her and do some projects on campus to demonstrate what makes sense.